Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean Garmer. Here with me as always, or not always, here with me again, Randy Isbelle.
It's starting to feel like
Uh,
always back-to-back
yeah,
weeks you've had me on. I'm the record for me, I think, at least for
right.
8 or 9 years.
So yeah, it's unfortunately Mark had to have a doctor's appointment today. He did come back okay from his surgery and everything. But and I had an appointment the day before, so we couldn't do it on Thursday. So awesome. Thank Randy for being able to fill
Of
in on
course,
short notice here.
of course.
And it actually kind of works out because Microsoft decided to announce this morning, early in the morning for your time over there, Randy, because they're based in Washington, that they have officially closed the what we've been waiting for like a week now, the Activision-Blizzard-King deal. That thing that we talked about last week with the FTC could possibly undo it, but since they lost that injunction case, it looks like it's probably not going to. So we could talk about I guess, mostly the good things about that now instead of talking about possibilities. So we'll discuss that. Sony finally revealed the long-rumored PS5 Slim, and there's some controversy there with that one. We'll get into that too. And some other unfortunate things about the game industry, and then another possible deal that could happen, or Navy is going to happen, or who knows if it's not going to happen, but Disney might be in the publishing buying business as well. So we'll get into all of that and more right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right. Well, just let's go ahead really quick, get the housekeeping out of the way here so we can talk about all this stuff. So if you've heard us before or watched us before, we do appreciate you. If this is your first time watching or listening, if you like the show, you can always subscribe, follow, whatever floats your boat there on the YouTube channel, W2M Network. And anytime we do a show, it is there, of course, for W2M Network, that you also get not just what we do, but if you like movies or TV shows, all that stuff, we have a great crew, Relative Broadcasting, that they review pretty much like every big movie that comes out the day after or like a couple days after it comes out. They do a great job. You should go definitely check them out. And they don't just review the movie. They talk about everything that has to do with the movie, how well it did sales-wise, all that stuff. So you get a complete breakdown of the film too. And then they also just did the Ahsoka show review as well, and the Creator that just came out not too long ago as well. So great stuff to go check out there. And of course, our anime show, Tatakeki, they keep up with all the current anime that's going on each week. So they're also great to go watch or listen to. And if you want to go listen with your ears, you can do that. Just search any of the shows on any podcast platform. We're pretty much on all of them. And you can go check us out there. So, yeah, please go subscribe, follow, like, review if you can, because that helps out on the charts. But Microsoft is definitely going to be making some more charts, definitely, now that they have purchased officially this Activision Blizzard thing that we've been waiting on for what seems like a year and a half now, or even longer. I don't think we need to go over the specifics. We did learn some interesting information that we didn't know at the beginning. It was one of the things that we've been waiting on to know, because obviously part of this is that this affects employees, right? And part of the deal with the Activision Blizzard thing, and probably the biggest reason why this deal was made, it's not because Activision's not making money, because they definitely are. Call of Duty, hello, is the employee, the stuff with the employees, all the lawsuits and all of that was very bad PR for the company, and that kind of opened the door for them to kind of be like, hey, we're available if you want. And so Microsoft was able to step in. And they'd already been talking before the wholesale happened, obviously, many months before, but that kind of accelerated things. And so Bobby Kotick officially is going to only be part of the deal until the end of this year, and then he is going to actually leave the company. That was very speculated on of whether he would or wouldn't. Would Phil Spencer, one of these like upstanding guys that everybody always talks about his character, allow for someone like Bobby Kotick to be around in a Microsoft-owned Activision space? And now we know he's not going to be. Does this make you feel even better about, especially being a lot of workers are excited about this deal. Now they can be more excited by the fact that, this guy's going to be gone.
Yeah, for one, as gamers, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the games and what Microsoft does and what they change now that they own all these different titles and franchises and stuff. But yeah, as far as workers go, this is a big deal. I mean, any merger is scary, I think, for most companies because that's the point of a merger. You're going to merge different jobs together. We see that with TKO and WWE where they consolidated a lot of positions. So usually a merger is scary for these kind of companies. But I think for Activision, like you said, with all of the bad publicity they've had and all the bad morale that's been going on with that company, with all the garbage that's been going on, hopefully all the mergers means that they will clean house and it'll be a fun place to work at again, and you won't get sexually harassed and you can just do your job. Hopefully, I mean, again, I like Phil Spencer and I like what he does, so hopefully he goes in there and puts his foot down and cleans stuff up, and hopefully for the people that are there just to do their job, they get to keep their job and it's going to be more fun for them to work there.
Yes, that's the thing that I think a lot of people are looking forward to as far as workers go. They are going to allow the unions also that have formed in the wake of this to exist, which that's a good thing too, however you feel about unions, whatever, but that's really neither here nor there on that front. Particularly, it's more about, the fact that Microsoft is allowing them to exist within their company. That's a cool thing. And also that is going to be the big thing. How long will the Microsoft's already cut what they had to cut 10,000 jobs has been the case for so many tech industries and everything. Will there be some point where there are redundancies like you talked about with the TKO thing and they do have to let people go? And unfortunately, you hate seeing that. Hopefully it's not a lot of people or it's not quick. Hopefully at least they get to be in the job and get to experience how much better of a place it is for them. They did mention that they are going to start working on getting games on Game Pass, which obviously is the big thing that Microsoft touts all the time. Are there any games like maybe you haven't played in a while or fond games that you have that you kind of want to see? Like
no, none. No. Don't put anything on Game Pass. Don't tempt me anymore. You and I have talked over the last couple of weeks as I've been able to do a couple of shows with you that my schedule is insane. You asked me yesterday, what have I played? I played an hour of Moving Out with my son as we continue to try to get the platinum on the first game so we can move on to the second one that just came out. We have hit a glitch and I'm mad about it. So now we have to kind of run through and figure out where the glitch is so we can get this last trophy. That's literally all I've played for a week. Like my Major League Baseball or MLB The Show season is now like 3 weeks behind. I usually try to keep up with that. I have played nothing. So don't tempt me with more. You keep throwing games at me and my list gets longer. I keep buying old games for some stupid reason. Like I'm going to get to them at some point.
Right. Yeah.
Senior year at college right now, on top of everything else that's going on, has been a giant headache. So no, I don't want anything from Activision on Game Pass for 2 months. Let me get the Christmas break, and then you can add stuff to Game Pass, please. No, there's obviously a lot of franchises that are going to be a lot of fun to throw out there. I think that's what Xbox has done, or Microsoft has done a great job with Game Pass, is not only putting out the new stuff and the day one releases are great, but here's a whole franchise. Like when they bought some of these companies, here's just everything. And now go and play the different stuff that you've done. I think that's why I like what Sony's been doing lately. I think we talked about it last week, or you and I maybe separately, but they have that new stuff from Star Ocean. So just here's the whole Star Ocean franchise if you have 500 hours and you want to get into, or you want to play just a game from the past. So it's going to overload Game Pass even more. The uh, the the price is going to be even better as you get so much that'll be worth it. And yeah, you're going to have even harder choices to figure out what you want to play on a different night. That's for sure.
Yeah, Microsoft was obviously wanting to, as you would when you make a purchase like this, being able to tout all of the franchises that you now own in one place. They put out a big 2-minute trailer of all the big IPs that they now own, which is insane to think about. Like you look at what Blizzard owns now, they also own Bethesda to, the World of Warcrafts and Diablos to Call of Duty and Crash and Spyro to that's insane to think about that they own all of that now. Yeah. And just how much stuff could potentially be on Game Pass. Even they could literally put Candy Crush on the cloud or whatever and just hey, we're not gonna have, I don't know if they'll take away the microtransactions or whatever and just make it a game on there. What if they're gonna do? But that's just insane to think about all these partnerships you can now have. I think they already talked about Call of Duty possibly using Doom tech at some point. It's just it's insane. That's the cool things about having this. It's all these people that can work together now and to make cool things. You could finally get your Fallout New Vegas too at some point, maybe, because they all kind of work together now. Yeah, Obsidian and Bethesda and people from other places to all come together and make a great game. So,
and that's why I always never understood why people were upset about all these mergers and all these buyouts and stuff. Now, I mean, we from the notes we'll talk about some of the buyouts that have not worked for some companies, and that's always disappointing where they get bought out by a bigger company that misuses them. But just the idea of some of these companies being able to work with others that are in the same umbrella, I think it's really exciting. I'm very excited. Hopefully that Toys for Bob gets released and can go back to make their own games instead of being stuck helping other game companies, and go back to their Spyros and Crash games and all the stuff that I fell in love with, instead of, weren't they helping with the Call of Duty stuff for a little bit? Just, I want them to go back to playing games, and hopefully now that they have such this big infrastructure, they'll be able to do so. But yeah, I'm with you. There's so many different collaborations that can now happen easily. I mean, we talk about the undertaking that Nintendo had to do for Smash Brothers and bringing in different characters from different companies just to do that. Microsoft can basically do a game like that, and they don't have to talk to anybody. Right? They have all the IPs themselves, where they could do their own Smash Brothers and have just the most ridiculous roster you could think of. It's exciting as a gamer to see what the next 5-10 years have in front of us.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they could literally do a PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royal, and it's all first party, and it's not, oh, we're having to add in LOTR and other people from other places. And then they could do those partnerships, right? Could you imagine Nintendo ever returns the favor and puts somebody from there into if a Microsoft had one of those?
Fun.
It's, I don't know if they would, because I mean, it's I get it. At some point, Sakurai's going to have to retire, and then maybe that game's not going to be the same. But to do a Smash Brothers clone seems easy in saying that, but then doing it and making it have that same essence is not always as easy, So, interesting that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say real quick, the one thing I just want, and part of it I don't, but I know a lot of people would get super hyped for it. But now that everyone's coming together, like I said, I want Toys for Bob to go back to making their 3D platform games, because they were so good with Crash and Spyro. Can we just get some ridiculous combo pack where Toys for Bob creates a collaboration of Spyro, Crash, Banjo-Kazooie, and Conquer? Can we just throw them all together on one epic adventure just for one ridiculous game, please? That'd be great.
Oh, that'd be cool. I mean, and that's the thing
Sign
too.
me
Like,
up. I'll give you all my money.
That's one of the ones that I really hope. So I think, Phil Spencer's already said that that's definitely one of the ones that's going to happen. Is for sure Toys to Bob is going to be making something Crash, Spyro, or some other platform.
Banjo.
Yeah,
Banjo.
I mean, they could be the ones that they need in order to make a Banjo, whether it's a remake or because we've talked about it before that there's really not that many people left at Rare that actually worked on Banjo that would really be able to be like, okay, we know what that was about. Let's why not take a company, a studio that had a hand in making two wonderful remakes that are lauded by so many and be able to do that again with Banjo? That would be awesome. One of the other franchises that Phil Spencer has talked about before, wanting to come back, and interesting that Bobby Kotick has also mentioned this as well. They had an internal town hall meeting, and one of the franchises he kept talking about was bringing back Guitar Hero. Rock Band still exists, partially probably because Epic owns them, and so they can fund them still having DLC and everything. But let's be, as much as somebody that loves Rock Band loves music games, let's be quite honest. That Epic, that whole time of gaming has passed us, right? Yeah. Asking somebody to go out and buy a peripheral, whether you include it with the game or not, which they did with that last Guitar Hero game that they made. Maybe it was one of those that it was ahead of its time because a lot of it was they were trying to make a Guitar Hero streaming service and that really didn't work. And I mean, also that apparently the story mode of the game wasn't that great either, which that's the thing is I don't know exactly with how Microsoft saw it go bad with Halo. To me, the only way you could really make Guitar Hero work is you have to basically make a great Guitar Hero game, and then it has to be go on for a long time in order to get people to feel like they should invest in the DLC, because really that's where that's at. I mean, Ubisoft still has Rocksmith. I don't know how many people actually use that, but that's also a actual guitar learning tool. So it has a purpose. It's not just a video game. Do you think there's a way for that game to come back and people to?
It would be interesting to put the two together and make it a learning experience plus the game and kind of mix it. I'm with you. I still have a bunch of plastic guitars hidden into a corner over here that just take up a bunch of space. I don't want another game. I know you were a big fan of these kind of games, so there's still an audience possibly out there, but how much of one is a big question. Game Pass could definitely be a big help for something like Guitar Hero, where with Game Pass you get a rotating set of songs, and then you could then go out and buy them if you want to add them fully to your collection. So that could keep things kind of rotating and keep it, in the forefront of some gamers' minds, where once a month they go back and play it. I think that's what I've really liked with Theater Rhythm's new game. It's like every month they come out with another set of 5 to 10 songs just to, hey, come back and try it with the different set of songs. And I think Guitar Hero could do that. But I'm with you, the whole plastic peripheral thing was so early 2000s. And I think it just really burnt a lot of fans out with the Battle of Rock Band and Guitar Hero, that we ended up with so many different things. It would be difficult for Xbox to pull off, but Game Pass is definitely an avenue they could go down and make it possibly work.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the number one thing. Bobby Kotick mentioned is AI, which I worry about using AI too much in gaming. But I would I guess if it makes things easier as far as producing the songs and that kind of thing to make the DLC come out faster, be able to make deals and know that you're going to get those songs eventually. And we're not talking about Harmonix sometimes would talk about how they make deals like 4 months or 5 months ahead of time for songs you're not going to see until those 4 or 5 months after. And it's like, I can imagine that is an issue for not only the music rights holders, but also the publisher itself, because you're making these deals hoping that people buy that DLC and getting you a return on investment. And then by the time that DLC comes out, nobody cares anymore. So it doesn't matter that you got the Beatles or Aerosmith or whoever to be in your game, which would obviously be people that you put that out there on Twitter, or you put that out there on a social media. That's going to get people to go, oh man, I can play these songs. I definitely do think that Game Pass would help a lot. Having that cut the price of the game to where it's like, oh, okay, if we do have a peripheral, well, you don't have to buy the game, just go and buy the guitar.
Right.
And the guitar is like $50 or whatever. I don't know. I mean, the guitar can't be $100. I'll tell you that right now. Nobody's going to buy that.
Right.
But yeah, and especially being able to say, okay, let's say you have like Rock Band has like a season pass that they do every so often, right? Like, let's say that season pass is included if you have Game Pass Ultimate or whatever. And then eventually, just like anything on Game Pass, they'll tell you, okay, it's going to go away. If you want to own this, actually own it with your game, then buy it. Right. And then the next season pass. And so like there would be a way for Game Pass to help make that less cost effective for people. Obviously, if they're going to, it's like, I don't think they can have guitar. Rock Band did this, right? Rock Band had the Rock Band Blitz thing where you could do it with your controller, like the Theater Rhythm is with the controller and all these. There are other music games that work that way. It's just, I don't think you get that same feeling from Guitar Hero doing it with the controller. It is fun still. It is still rocking out with the music. The thing is, they have mobile games to do that now, right? So like, you have to provide something that is only an experience you can have, I think, on the console itself or with your PC, in order to make that work. So they just have to find a way where it's reduce a lot of costs for the gamer, and then just getting that avenue to make it where it's worth for you to have on Game Pass as well. I think it could work, but it is a tall order. Like, it's not they really have to kind of think about it a lot and see how to make this work. And there's a lot of, obviously, people are going to be excited about the Call of Duty. You don't have to pay for it. Somebody that does like the story of the Call of Duties, that doesn't entice me to play those stories now. So you can just access it. I'm not paying $70 for a game I'm going to play one time and probably never play the multiplayer. But it is cool to finally get to see these. And they did mention that in 2024 they're probably going to, I'm assuming, probably once a month, they're going to have some Activision games coming on there. As far as the Blizzard side, a lot of that stuff's on PC, except for Diablo, obviously. Do you think that like we're going to see StarCraft come back, maybe, or
it's possible for sure? At least
they
the old
do
ones.
Something with World of Warcraft where there's an incentive for Game Pass people to try to get.
Ooh. The MMO stuff, I don't know if you really want to throw those together. They feel like they're their own little community now, and they always get butthurt when you try to change things. So I don't know if you just let them be their own thing. There could definitely be a Game Pass part. I know they did that with Minecraft and stuff, where they have their own little Game Pass deal, and it completely took over my old Mojang thing. So then I had to change some stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of questions that will be answered over the next year or 2 or 5.
Yeah, definitely. They could do something like they already kind of do it. I think it's like to a certain level, it's free. And then if you want to level up your character more, it costs money. They could offer some kind of like, oh, you get a month free when you're as part of Game Pass. And then after that, you have to pay. Like, it just depends. Like, what avenue does Microsoft want to go down? Because they do still offer, subscriptions for the other MMO games that they have on there, the ones from Bethesda. So
Mhm.
I'm assuming they're not going to do that because that's obviously one of Blizzard's cash cows. They don't want to hurt them even more than they already are PR wise and money wise. So that'll be interesting to see what they did do there. Like you said, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things that we're not going to get an answer to today. That was basically their big statement that they made. Was the two things we talked about was they're going to improve the work culture immediately, being part of Microsoft, and then obviously adding things to Game Pass, which people care about. The games that we know are down the pipeline for Activision is pretty simple. We know that basically all they're doing is Call of Duty. And then everything else, that's what's going to be interesting is when do they start pulling off people to go and work on these other games and saying, look, we're not going to, Microsoft did say that they weren't going to try to rush out a Call of Duty every year. If it took longer than a year exactly to make the next Call of Duty, they were going to be okay with that because they just want to make sure that it's a great game and not have it on this yearly cycle like a sports game. So hopefully we'll get announcements from these studios that were stuck working on Call of Duty and now beginning to do their own thing pretty soon. So yeah, there's a lot there that we won't get for now, but at least this is over with, and now it's the fun part begins.
Right.
Obviously, there's the what's next angle for this, Randy, and I think we have a news item that provides us the possible what's next for this. We don't know if this is going to actually happen or not, because it's not like Bob Iger is not dealing with enough stuff at Disney with all these movies that are not doing well at the box office and having to redo these Marvel shows because this limited series type thing is not working for them either. The Marvel movies in general are seeming to starting to kind of curtail the billions that they used to make, obviously. So do you think that somebody or however many people it is that are talking to him about buying a publisher, they've been talking about EA, obviously, because they have a lot of things with EA right now. Do you see Disney getting in that game of buying a freaking game publisher?
Of course, because they own everything. This is what's going to happen. We're going to end up with like 4 or 5 different people or companies that just own everything. And honestly, EA, like you said, makes a lot of sense because they already do a lot of stuff with them. They also own ESPN, so all of the EA sports titles can then really go back to what 2K used to do and integrate ESPN into all of those games. Right. So EA definitely makes a lot of sense. Like you said, like Disney right now is hurting because they really put all of their eggs in the basket of Star Wars and Marvel and basically oversaturated both markets as fast as humanly possible. I mean, you go on Disney Plus right now and there's 4 or 5 new Marvel shows and 17 new movies and there's 4 or 5 Star Wars things going on, and it's like I enjoyed the first run of Marvel. I really thought Endgame should have been the end of it for a bit because we're getting 4 or 5 Marvel movies a year with their top actors. We've lost most of those actors, and they're like, well, we got to rebuild this new thing, but with the same like level of stuff. We're burnt out of these superhero movies. I think it's shown in the box office, and the same with Star Wars. It's like Star Wars was supposed to be this thing. Every 5-10 years, we get a new one or a new little trilogy. It'll start every 20 years and get everyone rehyped in it. Nope, you got 5 different shows going on top of all the movies, and Disney does a really good job of just burning you out on stuff that you love, and then they go on and try to work on something else. And I think
they've killed Pixar as well for the most part. Like most of those movies come out now, and it's like, oh well, it's another Pixar movie. It doesn't feel like the event that they used to be.
Yeah,
right.
They all feel samey, and they all. I mean, there are some of those shows that I've enjoyed watching. There's a lot I just quickly skipped, and there's some that I get 2 episodes in and go, nah, this is a paint by numbers thrown together thing just to add stuff. And it's really sad to see. So again, that puts EA and Disney in the perfect merger. Because guess what? EA is the same goddamn thing. They are paint by number sports games. They're all the same, to the point that people every year can find assets from 4 years ago in Madden. If you go to different things, there's still signs that say like Madden 20. And so it's the perfect marriage of two companies that are just stagnant right now. And I don't think it's going to make them any better, and it's not going to revamp anything, which is what I really wish would happen. Again, for years, I've been begging for college football to come back to a video game, but unfortunately it's EA, so I'm worried now that it is going to come out, that it's just going to be a Madden.
The first one's going to be cool because it's the first one we've had since almost 11 years now, and then
every year will be the same.
Exactly. They'll just iterate on the same one over and over.
So perfect marriage for EA and Disney, and I think
they make a ton of money off these properties, and they keep chugging it along, and somehow people keep buying it, and stay subscribed to Disney Plus or whatever they do. To be fair, the Ahsoka show actually is pretty good.
There's something good. Yeah. I need to get back into Loki. I haven't started season 2. Season 1 was fantastic. There's good shows out there for sure, but there's just so many.
Right. The level of they got quantity over quality, and that's a problem. They didn't go full Netflix. Yeah, they didn't go full Netflix, but that's only because the books stopped them, the money stopped them before they did, because they realized, oh crap, we're losing so much money on this thing that we have to, or it's going to get into the ridiculous amounts. The problem that I see is what's Disney is not number one. They now I don't know what happens if you change the government again, and we get back to let's say Joe Biden doesn't win, right? And we go back to Republican president, Republican FTC. Maybe they go back to letting big business do whatever the hell they want when it comes to these mergers, and we don't have people fighting against them, right? You are still going to have the same problem with the UK and the EU. And a lot of people saw what happened with the Disney Fox thing, and a lot of people kind of went back and go, crap, we probably shouldn't have let that go through. And I just can't see a world where you let Disney now own something as big as EA. Like, we're talking about another company that is in Madden and FIFA by themselves are in the top 10 every single, no longer FIFA, EA Sports, whatever, are in the top 10 of the charts every single year. We just had Microsoft barely scrape by with getting Activision Blizzard. At some point, it's got to end, right? Like, at some point, somebody's got to say, yo, we can't let Disney just own everything.
But with that said, like, obviously the Activision stuff with Microsoft was a big deal, and Fox and Disney was a big deal because they're the same kind of company. I think this gets through because Disney does not have a foothold at all in the video game industry. So their argument is going to be, we're not creating a monopoly over here. We just want a piece of that pie. Like, we have zero piece over here. We're working with these companies. Now we want to just run the companies that we work with. That's how they continue to get all this different stuff. So again, Disney and Fox probably shouldn't have happened because those are two huge industries in the same industry. Activision and Blizzard, same thing. This is just Disney trying to, like, okay, we need a new piece of the pie. Well, we didn't get WWE. Let's get into gaming. Let's just figure out what we could throw in here. And their argument too is like, well, we have everything goes to Disney Plus, but gaming won't. Like, it'll be its different thing. I don't know if you can get discounts if you have Disney Plus to said games if they, go that route, or we get a Disney Princess game with loot boxes because EA somehow still continues to do the card collecting game, which is loot boxes, people. Even though we got
some countries have put kind of like a stop to that. Like, there's certain things that they can't do. And
card games that have ruined my sports games. But Let's all get upset about loot boxes and not about card packs, which is loot boxes.
Yeah. As somebody that is reviewing EA Sports FC 24 right now, I'll tell you what. I thank my stars that you get the Ultimate Edition that already comes with FIFA points. Of course, I probably wouldn't touch Ultimate Team if I wasn't reviewing it because of that. I don't like the predatory nature, and I know myself. Like once you start in something, it's very hard to not want to be like, but I want to have a team that's decent enough to be able to beat other people, not like a team that I'm losing 10-0 every time. And then that's how it starts. You go, oh, I'll buy one pack, and then but I didn't really get anybody from that pack, so maybe next time I'll get. And it's like, man, So I totally get the people that sink money into that because, like you said, it's very much like gambling. It's like that one. All I need is that one piece, and then
every so often, MLB The Show does it. They have their card packs and their dynasty, whatever they call it. I don't do the online stuff. I just do franchise mode, and then sometimes the road to the show. But I get packs as I level up and all this stuff while I work through my season, and every 2 months or so I go out there and I'm like, I have 35 packs, let's open them up. And then like you get that one cool card and you're like, all right, let's see what else I get. And that's all you get. And you're like, well, now I want more packs.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything with them. I don't even set the lineup that I get with them, but it's like, I didn't get a good pack here. So I probably have 40 packs I need to go open actually.
Well, yeah, that's the thing also with Disney that I worry about. Excuse me, is whenever they used to have their own developer. They used to have Avalanche Studios that made Disney Infinity, and that's another thing Activision wants to bring back is Skylanders. So we'll see how that goes, because I don't know about people wanting to go buy little figures in the store.
The kids will.
Unless they make it like I think Nintendo gives them a good platform to look at that, where maybe you make an actual game where the Skylanders are there, and then you can add in like DLC with the little figures or whatever, like the amiibo. And it's not like this thing where I got to go buy 30 of them. It's, there's like 2 or 3 or something, something like that. But anyway, the thing that I worry about also with Disney is that we know how quick they are to, you don't make money, get out.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many of the developers inside EA, as soon as they don't make anything that makes money, are they going to just be like, oh, we don't need them? Sure. This gaming franchise that they like, I worry about like the EA Originals label. Like, will that still be around? Because it's not a big moneymaker. It's basically to provide different kinds of games. I would have actually had a bit more faith if Comcast had wound up buying EA than Disney doing it, because the CEO has enough on his plate right now. He doesn't need another freaking big thing to worry about that he knows nothing about. And are they going to let gaming people do their thing? That's another thing I worry about too. Like, I don't see them letting the gaming people just, hey, y'all stand over there in your corner, keep doing what you do. And eventually they're going to get involved because they get involved in everything. And Disney is not one of those companies that I have faith at all owning a gaming publisher.
No. Again, which is why I say just take EA. I mean, then release the smaller companies with and let them do their thing, or combine with somebody else. Let Microsoft take them over, because they definitely like the indie companies, and PlayStation is hit or miss with them too. But you just take the sports part of it at least, and you guys will be the perfect marriage. Because what a mess.
Yeah, it's just like that's the thing that I wonder if Disney would even consider them, because outside of their deals that they already have with EA and the sports franchises, like Battlefield's a mess, and a lot of the other stuff that EA puts out a very small number of games, very much like Activision. They have a lot of other games that are sitting there.
Yeah.
Right.
I just looked up all of the franchises that they have, and it's like, where are these?
Oh, and they have Dead Space, right?
They have Dead Space, The Sims, Plants vs. Zombies. Whatever happened to that thing?
they
got
killed it by
everything.
making it mobile and then making
Yeah.
it like pay to win and all that stuff. Dead Space has worked out for them. Let's see how that remaking the ones that already exist keep going, because the first one was a novelty. I don't know if you start remaking 2 and 3 if that's going to work out just as well for you. And you know, they do have the games that they come out with, but it's just like I don't know that Disney is the one to go after here. And I don't think this is going to happen now. I think there's going to be some other big purchase made by somebody, whether it's Apple or Amazon. Somebody else gets in the boat of maybe buying a Ubisoft. One of these, like Warner Brothers, has tried to sell off their games for a while, even though they won't get the IP, they'll just get the games.
No.
So like one of these other companies will get bought, I think, and it won't be Disney. Disney will come late to the party, I feel like, because I think there's just too much involved right now, and they're not rolling all cylinders to go and make another big purchase like that.
Right.
Right off the bat right now. So, but speaking of big decisions, Sony made a big decision here this week, finally revealing that PS5 Slim. And the big decision that they made was to make it just as expensive in the United States as it is around the world now. So now the PS5 is $450, and it will be that because the PS5 Slim will eventually replace the current PS5. And they're following the Microsoft track of it is digital only, folks. There is a detachable disc drive that you can buy for $80, but it's digital only, and you cannot stand the stand will not be available in box for it to be vertical, only horizontal. So if you want to stand my PS5 standing vertical behind my TV right now, you got to pay $30 extra for that now as well.
They do have one with the disc drive attached. They showed the two versions.
No, they're going to stop selling the regular PS5 as well, I think.
No, they showed both. They showed the one with it and then the one without. But the one
without.
Okay,
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Then
the
one
you
without.
Can attach. So you can have it already attached for $500, or you can get it without for $450, but then buy the attachment for $80, which would make it more than the
exactly.
It's all a mess. And again, I love Sony. I'm a PlayStation guy. This is the dumbest decision I've ever heard. Like the whole point of Slims and other versions, unless they're upgrades, like the Pro versions and whatever, I forget what the Xbox ones were called. But the whole point of those were to cut costs. Like the PS2 Slim was cheaper than the PS2 because it was out long enough. They found ways to consolidate the system, and they wanted to sell more systems. So then it came out at a cheaper price. It was a lot cheaper to make, and then it continued to sell systems. This makes absolutely no sense because apparently, unless it's way cheaper for them to make, and now they're just making a actual profit on it. So if I remember right, when the original PS5 came out, they were not making a profit on any system.
Well, yeah, that would be part of it, right? Is the hardware is cheaper because it's smaller. Right.
So unless this is just them going, okay, now we can finally make a profit on the systems and not just the games themselves. But still, you got to at least make it look like, hey, we are trying to make it cheaper for you guys as well, not more expensive and more confusing. And now, like the side panels are 4 parts instead of 2, and they just came out with those 3 side plate colors or whatever on the last state of play that they were going all off about. They're not even going to work with the new stuff. I don't understand this decision, and it's not one of those. Well, I'm not going to buy it, so why are they doing it? Like the whole Last of Us stuff where people got mad. It was like, well, who is this for? It's like it's for new people that watch the show and they want to play the game, and so they up-res stuff. It's not for us. We've played it many times. This isn't for anybody. It's not helping anybody. It's not going to sell more consoles. It's just for Sony to make that little bit extra money because they found a way to build it cheaper, but still get the exact same cost, if not more. And it's just a headache.
Yeah, I guess my point. I'm sorry I did make that mistake of feeling like it's all all digital.
Because it's confusing. I don't blame you.
My whole point is that I think they are trying to push you towards the all digital future that we are slowly, or not slowly, very quickly coming upon, because a report came out a couple of days ago that Best Buy will now stop selling physical media as early as next year. I'm pretty sure other stores will start doing the same thing, where you're going to just be buying systems and accessories at the stores, and you're going to be buying everything digitally.
100%.
Or it's only going to be like you're going to go to the store and it's going to be like a warehouse and whatever. But it's like it makes you understand that, like, either you're going to be paying more money, and then if you want your drive, you're going to be paying $30 more than what it would cost to just buy the regular PS5. Right. And if you want your thing to stand vertically, which even as a slim, because of the way it is, it's not going to fit in a lot of people's entertainment systems horizontally. So a lot of people stand it vertically, and so now you got to pay $30 more for that. So yeah, it seems like Sony's kind of like seeing like, hey, if you want this thing, just got to get ready that you're going to pay a little bit more for it. If we do remember, Phil Spencer said that don't expect there is sales, but don't expect discounts on these because of the broader economy and inflation and all that. We're not going to be we haven't seen the Switch drop in price at all the entire time.
It's insane to me. Like, again, you and it's not even just their system. Like, I'm still seeing Super Mario Odyssey for $60.
Oh, well, their games just never drop in price.
They never do. That's just a Nintendo thing. But yeah, like, these systems just refuse to drop in price. It's no longer don't buy it at launch because you can get it cheaper in 2 years. Just maybe don't buy it at launch because they might have system issues. But it's a whole different world system-wise anymore.
I mean, at least Xbox and Sony, they do have discounts on their games, or or they get put into PS Plus and Game Pass, so you can just access them there. But Nintendo doesn't really have that, right? So it's like, but they can do that because they're Nintendo, because people allow them to do that. People will still buy it. The thing is, you got to know when the sales are happening. Basically, like around Thanksgiving is when they do that Black Friday sale. Well, it'll drop down to like 40 or 30 or something. But like, this is the thing with this decision by Sony is just, it's very interesting to see that they are very much, along with Microsoft, it hasn't come out yet, but it seems like Microsoft is doing the same thing, where they really want you to embrace an all digital future where we don't have to make discs anymore, and you just go and buy all your games on the store. Also, why? Because they don't have to bring in the retailer. They don't have to go and give money to the retailer. They get all the money. So they're not stupid. All right. The only problem is now you don't have it also probably will doom GameStop even faster. So if for some reason you're one of those that still has to go into your GameStop, be prepared, because they are going to be doomed even faster by this wanting to really push this. Do you think that now for sure that means that when we get a PlayStation 6 and an Xbox whatever, we won't have discs on it'll be only detachable drives? It won't be.
Yeah, I think we're definitely heading down that road. And I'm somebody that's kind of embraced it. I fought it for a while, and especially in the PS4, I don't even own a single PS5 disc. So I'm even though I have a disc drive, I've not bought a single disc yet. So I've kind of embraced it. It's not the way I would like things to go, because again, I like to collect games, so I like to have them on the shelf. But in the end, it's just so much easier to just download these games and put them in your little game catalog. And eventually we'll get to that point where they'll delete stuff, and then things won't work, or you won't be able to get access to games. Like, we're going to have all these new issues that everyone keeps being worried about. All of that will become forefront. I feel bad for like the used game stores. We have one in our valley that is basically turned into an 80% Magic the Gathering store, because like their game sales, especially for returned games for newer stuff, is just non-existent. Like, they have a shelf for PS5 and they have a shelf for the Xbox Series X. It's all older stuff because they're not getting returns for new stuff because everyone's just buying digital. So I feel bad for those kind of stores. GameStop, I don't care about them at all.
Yeah.
I just care about the mom and pop shops for sure, and I still go in there and give them my business. But I mean, that's the future of gaming. It's all online, it's all digital, and it's movies too. Like I don't know if it's going around the country, but I go to my local Walmart that used to have this giant electronics section, and half of it was movies and video games. Is now one row of it's literally all of the stuff from Nintendo, Microsoft, and PlayStation, used or new or peripheral, are all in one section, and the movies have one section, and then everything else is printers and other electronics. Like the electronics section has completely shrunk because of this, and it's
the electronics is all TVs and hardware, like you said. My Walmart is the same. It's this little. They have this little square thing that has the movies in it. That's like actually a part. It's like on a stand by itself in the aisle, and then you have that one row that has all the accessories and what. But I mean, what do we hear about all the time? They make so much money on accessories. This is why PlayStation, even though they look very basic, will come out with these like, oh, it's just red, gray, and blue plates that you can put on your PS5. Like, people are about that, man. Buying what has Xbox been able to do? Make collecting controllers a thing. Like, they constantly come out with new controller, and there's people that will show you that they have 20 of those controllers, even Joy-Cons. Even though they're literally just cosmetic Joy-Cons that you take off and on the damn system that you may not even use if you play it in the dock. People will buy those too. So it's all about that. It's all cosmetic and making the thing look nice. And that's kind of what you're going to be doing. It's not going to be about the games now. It's going to be about hardware and accessories and all of that. And we'll see what happens to these stores as they continue to not put physical like media in them, and how much faster we even go into the part where the problem is also this is a thing for when you try to go buy these games now, everything becomes a collector's item and everything gets super overinflated to the point where people don't want to buy physical, because even though one of the worst games is overpriced because, hey, not a lot of these discs exist, right? So you gotta buy it.
And you got to do it now or it gets worse. That's the one thing about collecting old video games. I have 25 games left for my Nintendo 64 collection. I want to say 4 of them are actually good games. Right? Yeah. The rest of them were just really bad games that they did not make a lot of, or they were blockbusters. Or some. It was not because they're so good everyone wants to play them. That's for sure.
Right. And like that's the kind of crux of it too, is just like it's that balance of, as soon as all of these PS3, 360, and the Wii U already shut down. Those shut down, those games are going to jack up in price too. So there's going to be a smaller and smaller collectors. It's all going to be a collector's market, and it's not going to be trying to go and get you to just buy those games to have them anymore. And you're going to all work in everybody's favor, because eventually people are just going to buy digital, or it's going to make these companies do more and more remakes or remasters, and you're going to pay general price for a game that's 10, 20 years old, because it's going to the point like, hey, the only way we can even buy this game is for you to write a remaster or remake of it. So you're playing in everybody's hands that way too. So just be prepared, for that. Speaking of an all digital feature as well, Sony is now going to unveil the cloud streaming for PS Premium subscribers, which is me and you and many other people. I like the Xbox One when I've had to use it. Being able to be because Sony only does remote play right now, and you have to be Wi-Fi connected to be able to use remote play. You cannot be outside, and use your even that PS Portal thing, or your phone or whatever. You have to be your PS5 has to be connected to either Wi-Fi or the Ethernet in order for it to work. I'm assuming cloud gaming would make it to where you could actually be outside, not connected to your system, and as long as you have the system and have it connected or whatever, you can use it, or just use it in a browser like the Xbox One does and all that stuff. So are you kind of okay with this? Like, are you interested in this at all? Being able to perhaps
it's another addition to their PlayStation Plus thing, just to kind of give it more value, whether you use it or not. It's kind of the same thing with the movie stuff that we talked about last week, where they're just trying to add stuff to it right now, especially since they bumped the price. And now they're at least, I mean, they should have announced these things when they announced the price hike. So people went, oh, this is why. But they're trying different things. Will I use it? Probably not. I for the most part, like to sit on my couch where my PlayStation is. I'm not out there playing it in other avenues, but I'm not the audience for this, and hopefully people get good use out of it, and hopefully it works really well. I mean, as far as cloud gaming and stuff, I live in Idaho, so we don't have the best internet where you get into some places and oh yeah, this is going to work beautifully. No, you go across the street and your Wi-Fi bar goes down to 1. That's how phones work here. So it's like, it's not for rural Idaho. That's for sure. But hopefully for other people it works out great. And again, it's just another piece to the PlayStation Plus catalog that will make it look like it's more affordable.
Yeah, hopefully it gets to the point where it is like the Xbox Game Pass, where it just becomes included in almost every game that gets put on PS Plus. So that, it does feel worth it, and not like, oh, there's 10 games that work with it and some that don't. I mean, hopefully they do have all the quality of life stuff eventually, where you could play it technically without even a controller for some of these games, and that is nice because look, literally, I don't take my controllers everywhere I go. It's kind of not something you really want to be seen doing, because I don't know how many times I've gone to let's say with my father-in-law to an appointment, and I'm sitting there, I have my Xbox controller in my hand, or I have my Switch even, and somebody goes, well, I thought he was like 15 or something, because I'm sitting there literally using a system, but if I'm using my phone, nobody says anything, right? Because everybody has phones. So or I'm standing in a line at a Walgreens, when we had to go get COVID shots or whatever, you're standing in a long line. At one point, I could literally just turn my phone on, put Game Pass on, and play something that I could use with my hands, So and I don't have to be weird and have this control, even though I have the thing that like it holds it or whatever.
Right.
It still looks weird. It looks weird that I'm sitting here with a controller in my hand. So, it is a nice like quality of life thing just to be able to have that there, and hopefully PlayStation makes it worth it enough to where it is something that's meaningful and not just it's a thing that they tack on to be able to say, oh, well, this is why we can charge eventually, let's say $20 a month or whatever for this thing. That they do care about it the way that Microsoft has made such a big deal about the cloud with Game Pass and all that. I mean, they did buy Gaikai and all that, so you would hope that they would eventually. Getting away from these big companies doing things here. Unfortunately, we do have. I should have mentioned also that Ubisoft has already talked about their deal in this whole thing with Microsoft Cloud Gaming. Remember that they owed the cloud gaming rights, so they have already told you that apparently if you have that Ubisoft Plus subscription, you're going to be able to play a lot of these Activision Blizzard games on the cloud. So they are going to to be using that. So if you have Ubisoft, now I don't know how that's going to work. Are they only going to tie it to Ubisoft Plus, and they're going to lessen the amount of games that show up on Game Pass with cloud gaming, or are they going to have them on both? That's going to be interesting how Ubisoft does that. But yeah, that is going to be something that's going to be added to Ubisoft Plus. So again, all these streaming services adding things with the cloud that makes it a bit more, I guess, if the cloud works for you, which, like you mentioned, it doesn't work for everybody. Again, I think we're really going to see that all work once you have the apps that work on TVs, where you don't have to link to your console. You can literally just play it off the TV. That's, I think, where we're going to get more fully realization on all that stuff of the cloud being something useful for people. But and then we got to get into the sad part of what's been gaming news. for the past, I don't know. More layoffs, some terrible allegations from Daedalic Entertainment involving the Lord of the Rings Gollum, which is currently the worst rated game of 2023. And Epic Games doing another big move because of their layoffs, most likely, because they're trying to make money here.
Mm-hmm.
They have removed trading items from Rocket League. You know, Rocket League, a game that you loved a lot.
Yeah.
Probably still play, and I also loved a lot as well when it first came out. What do you think about? I mean, I don't know how much Rocket League you have played in a while, but this is apparently a huge economy. People trading items and trading things with each other, and a lot of people were very upset.
Yeah, I'm definitely not part of the big Rocket League community because, again, I can't play like some of these guys do, and I like to have fun, and we'll play every so often. I'll get together with a couple buddies and mess around and get our butts kicked and just have fun playing Rocket League. But I don't get into the items and stuff anymore. But obviously, a lot of people did, and again, we talked about Epic and some of the other stuff that they've done to some of these other companies, and here we go once again. I mean, Fall Guys last week, where they're having their issues, and now here with Rocket League, another one of their big companies that, that was the little engine that could, and Epic went, come on in, we'll take care of you. And Epic doesn't know how to take care of anything, and that's what's really been frustrating. Is I wish those two companies would go to good homes and not to Epic Games, and hopefully they'll end up there eventually. But I feel really bad for Rocket League. It's had a fantastic life cycle. It's been around for a long time, but it's one of those things where it's the company itself that's trying to destroy everything. Not that they're losing the fan base. They have such a loyal group there that's all they play is Rocket League, and that's not the fan base you want to piss off with this. And I don't get it. And in the end, I think they're going to just lose some of their following, and in the end, Rocket League might die from something with just this kind of a decision.
That's exactly what I was just going to ask you, because on December 5th of this year will be the last day you can trade items with other players and trade cars and things like that. Did you mentioned it already? Do you think this could be a killer for the game?
I hope not, but we've seen over the last several years how fragile these kind of games are. Like, obviously, you need the community to survive. We've had several games try to do the Fall Guys or Rocket League formula and do these party games and or battle systems or battle games, or I can't remember what the wrestling one was now. Or
Rumbleverse, or
Rumbleverse was one. Like, we've had several of these games come out. The weird one that Sony did that was basically
Destruction All Stars.
Thank you, all of them. They all last less than a year because they could not get that community. So the Rocket League has a giant foothold right now in this space. But if you upset enough people and a new game comes out, because everyone is trying to take over this space, you piss them off right when a new game comes out that is a decent enough competitor, you're going to lose that fan base to that new hot thing. PUBG pissed off enough people right as Fortnite got hot. You barely hear any. I mean, PUBG's still around. They still have their loyal people, but it's not what it used to be.
Yeah, it's not the. I mean, at least not here, right? At least not here. Maybe in other countries, right, where PUBG's has been around more.
But that's what Rocket League could be in trouble of. Like, if you do the wrong decision right as a new competitor comes in, you lose that market. And that market is a flowing thing. It's not one that continues to grow anymore. Like, Rocket League's not going to have a resurgence where millions of people to go, I'm going to get into Rocket League, because like the level gap is so high now. You have your loyal fan base that's the only game that they play. And if you piss off that fan base, they're going to go off to something else.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a big note on it, and also the fact that, again, it doesn't even have to be something in the same realm as Rocket League. It could be the next big, like, live service thing that takes up a huge amount of people, and they go, oh, they've made Rocket League miserable for me. I'm not even turning this game. I'm just going to go to this next big thing and play that. And you're having more and more free-to-play games come out all the time. Honkai Star Rail just came out to the PS5, which means more people are going to be able to play it that maybe couldn't play it on their PC or don't want to play it on their phone. I know I'm going to be playing on my PS5 because I got tired of it hogging all the memory on my phone. So, like, that's the thing is you take people from these one live service game or one free-to-play game to the next thing, and if you make it to where they don't have anything to come back to, like removing item trading, which is something that builds a community, has people talk to each other, play the game. You can make friends with that, and maybe they play the game with each other. It's like it allows for people to get better at the game quickly, also, so you can bring people in that maybe haven't played as long as you have or whatever, and build them quickly so you can actually have a team to play with. And it's like you're going to remove this so that you can make money, so that you can force people to go into the store and have to buy all these items. They're not going to do that. They're just going to go and stop playing because it's not like they all of a sudden, again, money just grew on trees and they're going to be like, oh, I love this game so much, I'm going to just pour money into this that I wasn't before. Most likely they're not.
Exactly. They feel like it's a slap in the face. That we see that with some of the comments that have already come out, where it's not like, all right, well, that was a fun time. I'm not going to buy stuff, but I'm going to keep playing the game. It's like, no, this is a greedy move from a big company that is hurting this Psychonics game that really, again, was a flash in the pan. Like, no, honestly, if this game did not come out like in that early form of PlayStation Plus at the perfect time during the summer where all of the conventions were going on, where again, I went down to RTX that year and they had their own booth where you could play. They had a couple of different times where they had it on the main stage where you could go up and play with some of the big YouTube celebrity people or whatever. It really took off from there and clicked. Fall Guys took off and clicked. But as we've mentioned, there's several that tried to take off, had a good week or two, and didn't click. Life cycles can only go for so long. Like, again, Rocket League was a sequel to a game that had a long ass name that I had a coworker that was really into it, but it never took off. They made the sequel Rocket League, and it just happened to work out perfectly. Like, you have the perfect genie in the bottle game. Don't mess with it.
Yeah, I just don't like. Again, Epic is being greedy, like you said, of trying to get money from wherever they can at this point because they lost so much from all the stuff they did with Fortnite, and Fortnite's apparently growing a little bit now again. But look what they had to do to Fortnite. Even they had to take the building out of it to get people to care about it again. There's all these. It made a big hoopla last year. People wanted to put it on their Game of the Year list, even though it was an old game, because the removing the building took.
See, that's an addition because there's still the
and that's my point
version.
Though is like they made an addition and didn't screw up the game, right? Like that's what you should be doing with these games is making additions to them and not screwing up what makes the game work. If item trading is what's really pushing. So let's look at another example. People were pissed when the auction house got taken out of Diablo, but that was different because there was actually gambling and other bad things going on, price gouging and things like that. Right, that system is broken. This system is not broken. People are using it in good ways and making the game like work for them, and then you're going to go remove it because you want money. And you're going to make people do this. And as soon as people, there's people that aren't vocal online that use this, right? And they're not the ones leaving these comments, but they also decide that they're not going to play the game anymore. And you just lose people in droves. And it's just,
Again, this is a game where you get with a group of friends. And that group will decide to play something else, right? back when I was able to play a lot more, I was part of a group. We were really into Rust when it first got into the beta version. We played that for 3 weeks, played a ton of it. And then we went, all right, what's the next thing? We played this, and then we played PUBG for a while, and then we moved on. And I know a set of that group got really into Rocket League, and I'll be curious to see if now they move on to something else. And that's going, if you lose enough of those groups, it's going to be tough. So it's exactly right. Fortnite, they added stuff. They tried to add a different mode for those that didn't like the building, just to try to grow the population. Rocket League for years kept adding different game modes in there. It's like, well, if you don't like the normal thing, we have this weird basketball one. We have this like a grid-based system where you can try to knock out the floor, and we continue to add to our game. And that's what you have to keep doing, is add to it, not take away. And I'm very curious to see where Rocket League will be in a year from now.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem for Epic, right? Is you bought all these games because you thought you were going to be able to add them and then just keep growing the portfolio of live service games. And all you've done actually is keep compacting it to the point where you really will be only Fortnite, and you're going to go back to not even Fortnite. You're going to go back to being just a engine developer. And then what are you going to do with that? Like, so, one thing I forgot to put in here.
And they'll be bought out by Disney.
Yeah, they'll be bought. One thing I forgot to put in here is, the Unity fiasco finally met its demise. John Riccitiello had to step down as the Unity CEO because he created so many problems with this announcing that new Unity thing for the engine. Is it going to be a point for Tim Sweeney as well, where he keeps contracting the company to try to get greedy, to try to make that money back that everybody's used to making, right, with Fortnite, and you're going to end up hurting everything. So it's interesting. Hopefully for Unity, that means that they're going to walk back everything entirely with whoever comes in after this. And hopefully for Epic, things get better, because the Unreal Engine is super important for gaming. You don't want that to go away. Fortnite is super important for people, for kids and teenagers and so many other people around the world. And you hate to see Rocket League get hurt like that too, because it's a game that has lasted almost 10 years at this point, and it could keep going longer and longer. But you're removing things that people actually enjoy. It'd be like removing mods for so many games on PC. You're going to see people get upset, and they're going to say, "Well, I'm done." And I don't know if Epic's going to walk this back. But then there's people that already said, just like with Unity, you have hurt our trust to the point where even if you walk this back, I don't want to keep playing this game. And that's painful as well. You can't be making decisions like this just out of the blue.
There's some stubborn assholes out there for sure that like, well, you've ruined it. I'm done. And it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see where things go. Obviously, things kind of go in a weird flow, and maybe in a few months into 2024, people will have forgotten, and they'll go back into it, and things will be fine, and then we'll completely forgot that was ever even a thing. So the fun thing about this kind of stuff is you just never know what trends are going to hit at what times. And
no, you won't. And what companies can hurt themselves with bad PR to the point where it super makes an effect on everyone. And that's kind of what also happened to Telltale, right? The first time around. They made all these purchases with all these deals, with all these companies to make Telltale games, and it got to the point where it was way too much for the amount of staff that they had, and they had to be crunching and everything else. And then what happened? The whole company went down. And unfortunately, there was a new Telltale that was made kind of in its ashes. They were working on Wolf Among Us 2 to kind of start the process again of doing Telltale games. They did have that Expanse game that's come out this year. I haven't really heard anybody honestly talk about it that much. Also, the Expanse is kind of it's a big series for Amazon, but I don't feel like it's in the zeitgeist anymore that it was, back a few years ago. But Wolf Among Us 2 is a game that a lot of people, myself included, that have been wanting this game to come out. And I loved Wolf Among Us 1. And then you hear about, just like we've had to talk about so many times in this whole year, more layoffs. And apparently this one was not even announced. They just kind of we had one person that worked there kind of just make a random Twitter statement because people were talking about other layoffs that have happened. That he said, yeah, I can pretty much say that there's been layoffs and they happened in September. And that we don't know exactly, I think, how many people were let go, but it is a significant amount regardless. And the team's very small anyway, the one that's already working on Wolf Among Us 2. So yeah, it's not good. It sucks. And hopefully it doesn't put Wolf Among Us 2 in even more jeopardy than it already is.
Well, obviously, all layoffs are none of it's ever fun. Some of them are necessary to even keep a business afloat. I think Telltale really had an uphill battle from closing down several years ago, and like you said, they really oversaturated their own market. And I really think when they came back and still used the same name, that it was like, is it going to be the same stuff? And like you said, they haven't really even got out of the gate. They've got one game out and nobody really played it because 2023 has been insane as far as game releases go, and you can get lost in the shuffle really quick. And obviously I think they were hoping for better sales on that game to help them finish off Wolf Among Us 2, and
yeah,
hopefully that still comes out and maybe that kickstarts things, and then they can bring people back or then start to grow. But this business is rough, and again, if you go, I'm creating this project to then be able to support this project. If the first project doesn't work, the second project kind of completely falls apart. And as bigger companies go, that's when they can just go, well, we'll just remaster this real quick and we'll throw that out there and then we'll get some money from it. Final Fantasy is like, here's a mobile game that will help pay for some of this other stuff we want to do. Like Telltale can't do that. So obviously, I from the lack of hearing anything from it, the first game from Telltale didn't really work out, and it's definitely hurting them try to get their second game out. So it's sad to see.
And I think we've just kind of seen the whole thing with this episodic games just doesn't work. People don't want to be sitting there giving. This is not like
we don't want that with our TV shows anymore.
Well, no, I will disagree with that, in that I do think that with the TV shows it still works because it's a non-interactive medium and it's a week. With these episodes, we're talking about months at a time. By the time that next episode comes out,
and you forget,
I forgot.
But I mean, for bigger shows that are going to create dialogue, sure, once a week is fine. But for smaller shows, I don't want to wait a week. I'll either wait for all of it to come out and watch it, or with Netflix, I'll just get burnt or thrown out there, like that wrestler show that just came out a little bit ago. I watched that all in a week, and you just binge watch it. And I think that's where a lot of people go. It's like, if it's this awesome thing that will create dialogue, that's great. But really what Telltale really needed to do, and it's really difficult for them because obviously to do episodic, they're hoping the sales from the first one will allow them the money to create further episodes, is if you want to do episodic, you're exactly right. It has to be, all right, episode 1's here, episode 2 comes out in 2 weeks, so we continue to stay within the dialogue of gamers. And that's never what Telltale has been a part of, and it doesn't seem like they ever will. But episodic games just do not work.
Yeah, and I think also, like what we talked about with the Guitar Hero thing with the DLC, is they make these deals so far in advance that by the time, let's say, like The Expanse, it's no longer as big a thing as it was when you first announced that you were making this, right? So people don't care, or it's so far beyond. Like I always use the comparison to the Game of Thrones one that was so far different from the show that it, for me, and I think a lot of people, it is one of the lesser cared about ones because they didn't really find a way to make it mesh with the show. Whereas like the Borderlands one, is so well loved to the point where Gearbox made their own and it didn't do as well, right?
Yeah, but I think, I mean, to that point, The Walking Dead was kind of a phenomenon because, again, it really didn't connect with the show or the comics. It doesn't connect with either of them. They'll throw a character, but that's what I liked about it.
The original creator of the comics. He was in there, so he kind of knew the style and all that, you know.
So I mean, that was the whole thing. Is the comics had a style, and they were able to nail that. I thought Game of Thrones, playing through some of that game, had too many characters from
that too.
the show. So it was like, so we're just part of the universe, but not. So we kind of got confounded. I wish Game of Thrones was this whole other house that really was. You would hear things that would have happened in the show, but just kind of keep it in that universe and just tell its own different story. And to me, Game of Thrones was trying to walk this weird line of, we have so much stuff from the show, but you're not playing any of them. And we want to tell our own original story, and it didn't work as well.
Yeah. And hopefully for Telltale, I really want Wolf Among Us 2 to come out because that's like one of my favorites of all the Telltale stuff. But it just sucks that they did have to have layoffs, which I'm sure will eventually push this back. And then it doesn't help also that like apparently venture capitalist investment has gone down in gaming as well, which obviously that hurts all kinds of people that are making games, from the indies to just people that are, AA games. We've seen what happened to Embracer, just that one little thing that went wrong, and then they had to offload so much stuff. Venture capitalist investment going down obviously is not going to help either. And well, the one that I really hate hearing about, which we just talked about it with Activision. Now we kind of know a little bit of behind the story of why that. Not that to me it ever looked like it was super interesting. I never saw that game and went, man, I really wanted to know what happened to Gollum during that entire, but still, like, it was a Lord of the Rings game. There were still people that were kind of excited for it. And then you find out the terrible truth of, well, these are allegations, should say that. Allegations for Daedalic Entertainment, which is a developer of Lord of the Rings Gollum, that apparently they were enforcing uncompensated overtime, which I'm pretty sure that means there was also crunch. So can you imagine crunch with no uncompensated overtime? So you're getting paid regular for working perhaps all day on this game, trying to pay staff below minimum wage, a toxic work environment that was cultivated by an abusive leadership. This is, again, like I mentioned, probably the worst reviewed game of the entirety of this year, like big game anyway. We're not talking about, stuff that releases on Steam all the time. There's a 40-minute video from Game 2 that I think is on YouTube that talks about this. Daedalic somebody tried to come out and deny it through there. They haven't told a publication about it, but also their budget was super small, like around 15 million, which that's super small for a Lord of the Rings game. So you can see kind of what led to why this game was so bad.
I did not play it. Don't want to play it. We'll never play it. But what a disaster the whole thing was. And then, like you said, you see the behind the scenes stuff. And again, it's allegations, but it makes sense with what came out, that it was a rushed game where obviously the best work was not put into it. And if you're you're not getting paid and you're doing all this overtime on top of the crunch, I'm not going to put my best work forward either. I'm going to go paint by numbers and just get it out. And there's no heart to the game from everything that I've read about it and seen from the reviews. And it shows. And it's just disappointing that these people had to go through that kind of stuff and were kind of stuck where they couldn't go off to go work somewhere else. I'm lucky enough that in my situation right now, my bosses know this is what I work, and when I'm here, I'm going to put in my best effort. But if you go over the top, I'm out. It's just, Like it's a working relationship. That's what we need to get back to. If I'm not doing my job and I'm not putting in my effort, you have the right to get rid of me. If you're trying to go over the top of your power and you're trying to get me to not get paid for my services, or you're trying to make me work way more than I need to and not compensating me for it, then I have the right to leave. And that's where we got to get to. And unfortunately, with the gaming industry, because there's so many layoffs and there's not that many places to go to, it's got to be difficult. And they're so spread out. So it's like, okay, I've lost my job here. I'm going to go work for this company, which means I have to go to a whole different country. It's far more difficult for the gaming industry to do that. It just sucks that they have to go through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like so many people that just take advantage of people working and force them to. And we're not even talking about crunch here. We're talking about trying to make them work for less than they should be making, for uncompensated overtime, like to be abusive in the way that they were talked to, or it's just like that's just terrible. It shouldn't be happening in any workplace.
Yep.
And we need to see, the stuff that has come out has made it to where we're starting to see this taken more seriously, and we see it happen less and less. But then there's still these companies that try to push that, and obviously they're from a different country, so obviously I don't know the rules of I think they're French, where they're from, so I don't know what's allowed and what's not personally, but it's like still it's humanity, and it's terrible to see. Hopefully we don't have to keep hearing about this stuff, just unfortunately, like with all these layoffs and things like that, it is kind of weird to have a show where we're talking about being excited about another company buying another company, or
right.
And then talking about layoffs. Yeah, so it all kind of winds up going down to that, unfortunately, for that. But this is video games. Just really quick. I think I'm the only one that's played something that we haven't talked about in the last, month or so. I started playing Cocoon, and
you told me I need to play it.
Yes, you should. You should play it. So it's from the lead designer of the Play Dead games, Inside and Limbo. And this is 3D, so it's not 2D, but it's still kind of the same sort of thing of we're not telling you the story with a narrative. We're telling you the story with the atmosphere,
right?
Which
is what was so good about Limbo and Inside.
Exactly. And then the puzzles. This game is a puzzle like adventure game. But the cool thing, look, I'm going to be the first one. Don't get me to start playing a puzzle game because I am not good with those. The only way I'm going to play that is if you stick a guide in front of me and tell me exactly what I'm supposed to be doing so I can progress to the next thing. Thankfully, this game does not do that. It actually is really good about just feeling like you progress as you go along. It doesn't feel like I never got stumped, is what I'm, I guess, trying to say. But it also doesn't feel like, oh man, this is too easy, it's boring. No, it's like, it's good. It keeps you going. There are little boss battles in there. And the whole concept is like there's these little worlds inside this other world. So like there's these little pedestals that, as you see, if you're watching on YouTube, there's like it kind of goes in and out of a world, and you grab this little ball or this little marble looking thing, and it will transport you into another world where you might fight a boss or you might like solve another puzzle or whatever. And it's like constantly doing something. So there's something new to be looking at and kind of exploring, and it rewards you for exploring as well. Like you'll unlock things, and it doesn't just outright tell you that these things are there to be unlocked. But like I unlocked an achievement, and I had no idea what it was, but it's cool. I got like 50 points for it or whatever. The neat thing, it's also short. It's also like 2-3 hours.
Okay, that's so a bigger selling point. So
it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like Inside in Limbo, it doesn't try to be there forever. It tries to tell its thing and move on. And it's on Game Pass, so that's another thing. You don't have to go out and buy it if you don't want to. Just you probably Game Pass play it. So I definitely tell people that like these puzzle games or liked Inside and Limbo, check it out for sure. It's well worth.
You definitely told me I want to give it a try. I talked about how crazy my schedule is, and in 1 week, Super Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2 comes out, and I have to figure out how to find time for that. So luckily, in 2-3 hours, maybe I can get that in within this next week, and then and that'll be fine. Oh yeah, and then 4 days after that, stupid Metal Gear Solid Master Collection comes in, and I guarantee you, I won't be able to avoid that because I can't help myself because I love that series. So God, I need winter break to get here so fast. That's all I.
Well, you're telling it's the same thing for me. Alan Wake 2 comes out like the week after Mario and Spider-Man come out, and I'm just kind of like,
we've hit the time, and really like the whole summer stuff. I've played a couple of those games.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There's the holiday time is going to be pretty pressed for all that stuff. Just really quick on some kind of hits on is coming out. We mentioned so this time next week on Friday, you'll be able to go play Super Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2. Also, that Sonic Superstars game comes out on Tuesday. It's getting good reviews. So I saw some comparisons to this should have been what Sonic 4 was. So if you were excited for Sonic 4.
Did that ever come out with episode 2?
No, I don't think so.
It just was episode 1, right?
Yes.
God damn.
That Wizard with the Gun game from Devolver Digital also comes out that same day. That's that. I think it's like a roguelike with a wizards. And it's kind of like got like a cool animation to it. That looks really interesting as well. So that's coming out. And the Transformers Earthspark edition, which I think is the 2 Transformers games together. Lords of the Fallen came out today. So if you kind of like our Dark Souls sort of fan, here's another one of those you can play. I kind of see that game coming to Game Pass or PS Plus pretty quick. The first one did okay, but they had like higher hopes for that game than wound up it wound up being. I wish I had VR because I love the Seventh Guest back in the day, and that's going to be on PSVR and other VR platforms as well. That comes out on the 18th, and that Gargoyles remastered game also comes out on the 19th too, which I love that back in the day, that Gargoyles game. So yeah,
don't forget Jackbox Party Pack 10.
Oh my God, we're at 10.
They are at 10. I don't think I've played one since 5, but I always loved the Jackbox games, and obviously enough people are buying them that they keep coming out with a new one every year. But
I mean, they're fun games to play at parties. You know?
And they're just short and they're fun, and they come up with goofy things, and there's
they add games to them too. So, there's too much coming out next week. That Hellboy game also comes out next week too. So yeah, there's a lot. Go pick out what you want. Like I mentioned, also the Honkai Star Rails out there on PS5 too. So if you are waiting to play that on your console, you can do that as well. And as far as this show goes, we should be back to the regular Thursday slot. I don't think Mark's going to have another appointment. But thank you so much, Randy, for covering these 2 weeks. It's been
no problem.
Fun to have you on. Go check out Randy's R&R Sports Report on Tuesdays. You can go subscribe on YouTube. Just find it on there. And whenever y'all can do Chapter Select again,
right?
It'll be there.
Man.
But yeah, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. You can go subscribe wherever it is that whether you watch or listen on YouTube, W2 Network, or just go find Video Games to the Max on the audio side and subscribe there. Hit a review if you can, 5 stars or whatever you feel like we deserve. That would help us a lot so we can climb up those charts. Go listen to the Radless folks and Todd the Keiki and all that. And we'll see you later, everybody. Bye.